immigration figures, which are horrendous. Horrendous if you want to get a GP appointment. Horrendous if you want to travel around Britain's motorways. So let's get it into our heads. In 2023, under a Conservative government, nearly 1 million net people came into our country. And you might have noticed, the quicker the population rises, the poorer the average family in Britain becomes. And those figures are now undeniable.
Have you ever felt like politicians aren't listening to your concerns? That's exactly how millions of Brits felt before this debate. Nigel Farage tapped into that frustration, and the results were explosive. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. As you watch Farage challenge Starmer on immigration and the economy, you might find yourself nodding along. The questions he asks are the ones many of us have been wanting answered. And when Starmer struggles to respond, it's hard not to feel a sense of vindication.
Of course, with Labour, it's even worse. And I don't think smashing the gangs is going to work. It's perhaps worth just mentioning briefly that the asylum bill, we've had those figures this morning. I don't know what the true figure is, but it wouldn't be difficult to work out that it would be several multiples of what has been taken away from Britain's pensioners in terms of their winter fuel allowance. So I'm pretty angry about those numbers today. I think the general population will be too. And for Kemi Badenoch to stand up yesterday and read off the autocue as she did.
This isn't just politics as usual. It's a moment that could reshape Britain's future. Nigel Farage stepped into the debate arena as a political outsider, but he was far from unprepared. Known for his maverick reputation and unconventional approach, Farage brought a secret weapon to his face-off with Keir Starmer, a razor-sharp command of immigration statistics and a knack for connecting with everyday viewers. As the cameras rolled, the contrast between the two politicians became immediately apparent. Starmer, with his polished demeanor and carefully crafted responses, represented the traditional political establishment. Farage, on the other hand, exuded a raw, unfiltered energy that resonated with many viewers at home. Farage wasted no time in deploying his trademark direct language. He painted vivid pictures of struggling communities and families feeling the pinch of rising living costs. These relatable examples struck a chord with the audience, forcing Starmer to confront the real-world implications of Labour's policies. But it was Farage's mastery of immigration statistics that truly caught Starmer off guard. With rapid-fire precision, Farage rattled off figures on net migration, asylum applications, and the strain on public services. Starmer, visibly flustered, struggled to counter these numbers with equally concrete data of his own. As the debate heated up, Farage began to challenge Starmer on specific policy points. He questioned Labour's stance on border control, the impact of immigration on wages, and the party's plans for integrating new arrivals. With each query, Starmer found himself increasingly on the defensive, unable to provide clear, concise answers that could match Farage's assertive style. The turning point came when Farage confronted Starmer about Labour's seemingly contradictory positions on immigration. He highlighted past statements from Labour MPs that appeared to conflict with the party's current stance. Starmer, caught between appeasing his party's diverse voter base and addressing public concerns, struggled to articulate a coherent response.
If talk of reform and myself is dominating, I'm not there. Look, they are desperately looking for someone to blame for the massive election loss they've just been through. So let's go for Nigel Farage.
They wanted to blame you, or do they want to jump into bed with you? I thought Mr. Jenrick is kind of keen for you, to cuddle up.
Well, he's less rude about me than the other three. I mean, that is true. No, there would be no deal with them. I wouldn't trust them anyway.
Are you proud of Brexit? Do you feel like it's been an unalloyed success?
Do I think getting back our independence was the right thing to do? You bet your life. Do I think we've handled it well? Good Lord, no.
As the debate moved into its next phase, the stakes were higher than ever. Farage had successfully thrown Starmer off balance, leaving the Labour leader scrambling to regain his footing. The question on everyone's mind was, could Starmer recover, or had Farage's unconventional tactics already sealed the outcome of this high-stakes political showdown? Just when Starmer thought he'd weathered the worst of Farage's attacks, the true test of his leadership was about to begin. The next few minutes would expose a fundamental flaw in Labour's approach to one of Britain's most divisive issues. Could Starmer find a way to bridge the growing gap between his party's ideals and the harsh realities facing voters? Labour's current stance on immigration has been a tightrope walk, trying to balance the concerns of traditional working-class voters with the party's more progressive elements. This balancing act has left them vulnerable to accusations of being indecisive and out of touch, particularly in areas where immigration is a hot-button issue. As Farage launched into his next line of questioning, the pressure on Starmer was palpable. The UKIP founder didn't pull any punches, hitting Starmer with a barrage of statistics that painted a damning picture of Labour's immigration record. Of the last 2 million immigrants who arrived from outside the EU under Labour's watch, only 16% are employed, Farage declared, his eyes locked on Starmer. How can you justify a policy that's making Britain poorer and stretching our public services to the breaking point? Starmer, visibly flustered, attempted to counter with Labour's plans for a points-based system and promises of better integration. But his words lacked the conviction and specificity of Farage's attack. As Starmer fumbled through his response, it became clear that Labour's carefully crafted messaging on immigration was unraveling in real time. The debate reached its climax as Farage prepared to deliver his final argument. The studio fell silent, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Farage leaned forward, his voice low and intense.
Part of our independence are we exploiting to our best advantage?
The point about independence is we're in charge. So we can get things right, we can get things wrong.
Do you think as a regular voter, you feel that the AUKUS deal has affected your daily life?
If I lived in Barrow-in-Furness and I was working in the submarines, yes, I would, absolutely.
Okay.
Probably more annoyed with the way Brexit's been delivered than anybody, because so many of the things that we could have done, we simply haven't. And the big one is people voted Brexit above all because they did not like the rate of the population explosion.
Mr. Starmer, your party claims to represent the working class, yet your immigration policies are directly contributing to wage suppression and increased competition for jobs. How can you stand there and tell the British people that Labour has their best interests at heart? The question hung in the air, and for a moment, Starmer was visibly speechless. His silence spoke volumes, and viewers at home could almost hear the collective intake of breath. It was a knockout blow, leaving the Labour leader struggling to regain his footing. As the debate drew to a close, the immediate impact was clear. Social media exploded with reactions, many expressing support for Farage's direct approach and questioning Labour's credibility on immigration. Starmer left the studio looking shell-shocked, his team already scrambling to do damage control. The aftermath of this debate promised to reverberate through British politics for weeks to come. As the dust settled, one question loomed large. Could Labour recover from this stumble, or had Farage's relentless questioning exposed a fatal flaw in their strategy? As the dust settles on this explosive debate, it's clear that Nigel Farage has reshaped the political landscape. His command of immigration statistics and relatable examples struck a chord with viewers, leaving Keir Starmer struggling to respond. The moment Starmer fell silent in the face of Farage's pointed questions about Labour's immigration policy may well become a defining image of this political era. The long-term impact of this debate could be seismic. Farage has positioned himself as a credible alternative to traditional party leaders, tapping into public frustration with mainstream politics. His ability to connect with voters and address their concerns head-on has resonated deeply, potentially reshaping public opinion on key issues like immigration and economic policy. As we look to the future of British politics, one question looms large. Will this debate mark the beginning of a new era in political discourse, where outsiders can challenge the establishment on equal footing? Or will the traditional parties find a way to adapt and regain the trust of an increasingly skeptical electorate?